Welcome back, Chooms. One Dragon here. One of my favorite aspects of Cyberpunk 2077 is the fact that each character can be interpreted differently based on your own personal perception of events, decisions you make in the story, and if you complete multiple playthroughs. Cyberpunk is not like simple action films where there's obvious bad guys and they don't go on huge monologues explaining all the details to their evil scheme. Instead, most characters live in a morally grey area, and it's up to the player to make a judgment as to whether or not they're trustworthy. On top of that, you're only shown the story through the lens of V and occasionally Johnny's perspective, meaning you'll have to piece together each character's motivations and backstory over multiple playthroughs. Essentially, to truly appreciate the characters of Cyberpunk, or at least the work that went into making them, you have to try treating them differently and testing out different decisions or quest order. The example I wanted to go over today is Takemuras Story.
You do not look so bad. Then, in the car, I doubted you would survive.
Many people really love Takemura as a character since he saves V from death at the dump, and he can be goofy at times too. One prominent example is if you decide to meet him at Wakako's instead of riding with him.
Quite a talent for faces. Where have I seen yours before? Do you know who this is? Hideshi Hino, the late night comedy host. He was brilliant before he fell off the wagon. Can you still do your famous "better buckle up"?
No,
Come on, you don't forget a thing like that. Just once, please.
V, we should go in. Now.
Hideshi, don't leave this poor guy hanging.
This is not the best time. Truly.
Oh, come on. I haven't heard it in years.
Better buckle up!
Wow.
Hino-san, what happened to you?
I do not know. I do not recognize myself. Are you happy? May we go?
Interestingly, so much of Takemura's story is optional since you can choose to skip the reconnaissance part of Give Me Danger, or you can listen to Johnny and abandon him to die after the parade.
Last chance to get the fuck out of here.
Takumura! Can't leave him back
Forget him, guy's toast. Unless you want to wind up like him.
On the other hand, you can offer him food suggestions and even ask him out to dinner, and lots of people wish he was a romanceable character.
V, just in time.
Girl, if you're here to jump, remember that there's help available. Round-the-clock hotline.
That is not funny.
There is also a darker side to Takemura, one that you only understand after several playthroughs and after questioning his decisions. For example, why does Takemura go to find V's body after already confronting Dexter Deschamps? When does Takemura place a tracker on V?
くそ、ひどい匂いだ。
And also, what does Takemura mean when he says certain procedures will be used to establish the truth?
We'll get the hearing before reasonable people in a neutral location. Certain procedures will be used to establish the truth.
You are introduced to Takemura during the heist as Saburo Arasaka's bodyguard, who was unable to cover for his master's one weakness, his trust in his family.
私の息子だ。
The most important part about this scene for Takemura is the fact that he doesn't believe in Yorinobu's claim that Saburo was poisoned. This blatant moment of hesitation is all that's needed to showcase his disbelief at the situation.
何の騒ぎです。誰かが土に毒を持った。毒を。そう。頼信さん、しかし。竹村、お前の仕事は何？何の話です。単純な質問だ。答えろ。荒坂家の家長を守ることです。今後はもっとしっかり責任を果たすよう望んでいるぞ。お許しください、荒坂様。決して失望はさせません。
After being shot in the head by Dexter Sean, you encounter Takemura once again at the dump. Here the question becomes, why does Takemura come to the dump in the first place? He clearly tracked down Dex. Dex probably told him that he shot V in the head, but despite that, Takemura persisted and forced Dex to lead him to V's body. In my first playthrough, this could easily be explained by simply confirming that V was dead, or even retrieving the biochip. However, at the end of the heist, if you don't send Jackie's body to his mother and instead send it to Vic's place, Arasaka steals his body and constructs a damaged engram of Jackie, which you can encounter and talk to during the devil ending.
Want to talk to Jackie Wells? Who? You took his body. Arasaka did. Goro said you interrogate the dead. Think I might understand how that's possible now.
I'm afraid these are two wholly different things. But let us see. Jackie Wells.
Chica! Finally! Mama told me things come to those who wait.
Furthermore, if you decide to go on recon with Takemura before raiding Arasaka Park, and you send Jack's body to Vic, Takemura will reveal that he does in fact know that Jackie's body was successfully stolen. He also confirms that Arasaka utilizes Soulkiller to create engrams and can retrieve information from those engrams.
There's one thing you should know. It is about Mr. Wells.
About Jack? What is it?
When I set out to find you, others went to find Jackie. They took his body.
For the life of me, can't figure why. So his mom couldn't give him a proper send-off?
Arasaka has a method for pulling information from the dead.
What are you talking about?
Don't ask for details. I understand little. I know they use the Soul Killer program to do so. They can pull an engram from Wells' body. Damaged, incomplete, but still an engram.
Motherfuckers. Evil.
Jackie's psyche. Where are they keeping it?
This, I do not know.
Why am I only hearing this now?
I did not know I could trust you. The circumstances have changed.
This implies that in a similar way, Takemura was likely sent by Yorinobu to retrieve V's body to potentially use the Soulkiller program on and sift through their memories whilst inside Mikoshi. You can imagine that using Soulkiller on V could benefit Takemura, as he could potentially have evidence for Yorinobu's betrayal. However, V is found alive. Barely, but still alive. Like most of the characters that aren't hiring V, Takemura doesn't trust V and even slaps them in the face.
この女で間違いありません。はい。1時間後には着くかと。Quiet!
Fucker!
Clearly, hitting V in the face is not unique, but Takemura has a different reason to do so. You can imagine that V is probably pretty badly wounded after being shot in the head, dying, being thrown into the dump, and getting their brains somewhat repaired by the biochip. What's interesting is as soon as V talks, Takemura quickly ends the call, as you can see by the lights in his eyes turning off.
Fuck!
Quiet!
And if you decide to not say anything and let the dialogue timer run out, he doesn't hit V. Finding V alive means that Takemura could have potentially interrogated V before handing them over to Arasaka. Therefore, hiding the fact that V is alive from Yorinobu is a good reason to silence them. Regardless, from Yorinobu's perspective, it's a good idea to kill two birds with one stone. Get rid of the evidence, or V's body, and Takemura, who clearly remains loyal to Saburo. So, when trying to eliminate Takemura, Arasaka tries something similar to what they do to Corpo V, synchronizing turning off his cyberware with the hit squad arriving.
How you feeling? Pretty sharp dive, huh? Your access to company networks is hereby revoked. In 2 minutes, any company cybernetics in your possession will cease functioning.
This assassination is even successful if you don't take the air hypo and assist Takemura.
なんだあれは
Although, in this situation, V is the X factor. Working together with Takamura, they fight off the assassins, and all the while Takamura is assessing V's combat prowess. Another interesting detail that I focused on after my first playthrough is when does Takamura place a tracker on V. When Hanako sends a proxy to communicate with V shortly after kidnapping her from the parade, you can question how she manages to find you. She responds stating that Takamura places a tracker on V.
How'd you find me?
Did you really think it would be enough to leave the city?
Takamura mentioned he had placed a tracker on you. Yet even had he not, when Arasaka wishes to find someone, it finds them.
Porcelain, bitch.
For the most part, Takamura doesn't get close enough to place a tracker on V without noticing. So when does this happen? After multiple playthroughs, I figured there were a couple of windows of opportunity, but narrowed it down to Vic's clinic. After crashing his car into the remaining assassin, Takamura, following Delamain's instructions, saves V's life and helps to carry them into his clinic. Afterwards, V fades in and out of consciousness several times, and we're shown short scenes of Takamura and Vic. At first, I interpreted this scene as Takamura fixing a bandage or something on V, but with the benefit of hindsight, this is most likely the time when Takamura places a tracker on V. After recovering at Vic's, the next time you'll come across Takamura is at Tom's Diner, and you'll discuss your plans to find Evelyn and Helmet. Here, Takamura asks V not to leave the city, even with his insurance plan of putting a tracker on V, and this is his first attempt to convince V to side with Arasaka. He argues that V will be able to get a meeting with reasonable people, and that Arasaka has the only specialist that can deal with the biochip. V rightly questions whether they would believe them in the first place, but Takamura states that they have procedures to establish the truth.
So what? We stroll into Arasaka HQ and announce that Yorinobu's a kin killer? That he murdered Saburo?
We'll get the hearing before reasonable people in a neutral location. Certain procedures will be used to establish the truth.
A lie detector? Forget it.
V, being the naive gonk, thinks that this means a lie detector. In my first playthrough, I thought this was referring to torture. However, later I figured that he's more likely referring to Soul Killer. In the beginning, Takamura doesn't trust V at all, placing a tracker on them and at worst planning to use Soul Killer on V for evidence to exact his revenge on Yorinobu. From here, Takamura's opinion of V will change over time, but it's fairly easy to miss, as you may decide against accompanying him on recon or saving him in the first place. After meeting at Tom's Diner, you'll encounter Takamura again, either meeting Oda or kidnapping Helmet.
Hey.
Locating and capturing Helmet is something even Takamura couldn't accomplish, and V continues to surprise him based on their skill as a merc, or as Takamura constantly refers to V, as a thief.
Two-bit thief, ain't I? Keep saying so yourself.
Not without reason.
Why does Takamura eventually change their mind about V? As he mentions in Tom's Diner, he is in a foreign land, has limited connections or allies, and gets rejected by fixers such as Rogue due to being hunted by Arasaka. In other words, he is desperate and is constantly assessing V for their usefulness in avenging Saburo. His motivation and background is only revealed if you decide to go on recon with him during Gimme Danger. Whilst scouting, Takamura will open up about his admiration for Saburo, how he was born in poverty or the slums of Chiba 11 in Japan, and how he rose to the rank of Saburo's personal bodyguard. As mentioned by Takamura, he attained this by achieving the highest marks in training and serving in the Special Forces. This implies that he is experienced in recruiting and organizing people. You can see this in action as he assesses V constantly throughout the story. his prep work and planning to kidnap Hanako from the parade, and later when he leads her forces in the Devil ending. His first point of reference is how V fights during the initial car chase, and you can see him glance over approvingly if you decide to shoot the final assassin. After, you can optionally impress Takamura by taking out the mech when hacking Hanako's float.
You really?
What, that I dropped them?
You are truly bad.
And during the parade, opening the panel to access the ventilation system.
I don't know how to open that. Look for another way.
Got it open.
Worse, one likes to hear from a thief who is your ally.
Finally, after taking out the snipers and the netrunner guarding the floats, Takamura will even guide V in taking down his former apprentice, Oda.
Finished, but it's enough. Do not kill him. This was his duty. Oda thinks he fights for the good cause. No, you fight for what is right and true. You must stand on your feet.
There's also a few funny moments where you can mess with him by being lazy when scouting Arasaka Park, or walking away when talking to him.
Think I've seen everything.
You wish to come for this reconnaissance. Do your job. I expected you to be more useful than this.
Told you, there's nothing left.
戦場に子供を連れてきた俺の責任か。Do you have what they call ADD?
After kidnapping Hanako, he can even blast V with a shotgun if you knock less than 4 times. Regardless, without V, Takamura would not be able to put his plan to persuade Hanako into action. What about from V's perspective? A lot of positive or funny interactions with Takamura comes from poking fun at him for being unable to use his phone properly, helping him out with food, and his past as a comedian.
Hey, Goro. Wow. You look like a million eddies.
And your charming friend is?
Hideshi Hino, the comedian.
やめろって言ってんだ。竹村五郎です。岡田さん、お会いできて光栄です。
Ah, a true gentleman.
Like Corkbow V, Takamura does not have to use a phone to take calls whilst working for Arasaka. However, when their corp cyberware is disabled, it's a different story. The biggest obstacle to liking Takamura is Johnny Silverhand, who is constantly hostile towards everything Arasaka. He even tells V to abandon Takamura and celebrates his potential death.
Anyone knocks, blast the fucking door. No warning.
And if it's Goro?
Who are you kidding? Been 24 hours since we split up. Complete radio silence. Rest in peace, bastard.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
He was nothing more than a means to an end. Even he knew that.
Despite Johnny, you can decide to trust Takamura, and after he opens up about his past on the rooftop, he'll message you a photo of the Bakaneko, or the cat. In that text chain, you can even ask him out to dinner. Quest order is a big part of the decision making in Cyberpunk, and changing up the quest order often has multiple consequences. One example is if you complete the Alticaldo quest line before other main missions in Act 2. During the mission Transmission, Johnny will tell Alt how you've already convinced the Alticaldos to work with V, and if you decide to save Takamura, he'll send you this goofy selfie where you can tell him who you'll side with in the ending.
Great, so we got a plan.
But how will you reach Mikoshi? I've created armies that failed to breach it.
They were children of the net. There's your problem. We're banking on the human factor. V's got a big dusty nomad family, and they'll do anything for her. We'll crack a window, slip you into Mikoshi.
Furthermore, in patch 1.5, they also added additional messages. One of them is discussing your view on corporations and subsequently Takemura with Pan Am. Finally, there's the devil ending. If you decide to save Takemura and side with Hanako Arasaka, you'll meet him once again in the devil ending. Here, Takemura will find out that the biochip contained Johnny Silverhand, but despite Hellman's accusations, he trusts V's word that Johnny is suppressed.
Johnny fucking Silverhand. Recognize the name?
The terrorist?
Yes, but he's suppressed now, with beta blockers. But before I did that, he warned me against working with Arasaka. So tuck your suspicions where the sun don't shine before I start regretting not taking his advice.
That is enough for me.
In the devil ending, he'll assist with retrieving Hanako from the estate and organize her forces. Interestingly, V will reveal that Saburo's plan to attain immortality by creating an engram of himself was successful. Based on Takemura's shocked reaction, combined with earlier conversations about Soul Killer, you'll learn that Takemura was not fully briefed on the main purpose of the program.
You in on this?
In on what?
Saburo's comeback. Just spoke to his construct.
What?
He digitized his engram. Made copies. In case he died.
No. He would have told me.
Why? So you'd take your job as his bodyguard lightly?
Aryan.
Feel that, Goro? Night City just gave you another kick in the nuts. Running start this time.
If you abandoned Takemura earlier, you have to fight Yorinobu's faction alone, whereas if you save him, Takemura and the forces he organized will fight alongside V. Takemura will also have unique dialogue whilst fighting Smasher, where Smasher calls him a traitor.
You are a traitor, Goro! And now, I as the corporation will crush you! It will be my pleasure!
Before entering Yorinobu's office, V will have a conversation with Takemura, where you can optionally tell him to leave Arasaka, but he stays loyal to Saburo and his ideals about corporations, ultimately rejecting V's suggestion.
Do yourself a favor, Goro. Ghost. Get out of here.
Pardon?
Forget Arasaka. Don't you get it? You were Saburo's bodyguard. And you failed him. Think they're gonna raise their glasses to you?
I do not know.
Hit the streets. Disappear. Get gigs, feed cats. Just stay clear of Arasaka.
You know, I cannot do that. But I thank you. Truly. Go, V. Finish what we started.
Please sit up.
In the epilogue, after days of testing and interrogation, Takemura appears to present V with their options of either submitting to Arasaka and entering Mikoshi, or returning to Earth. If you question Takemura about what he's been up to, he'll tell V that he is no longer Saburo's bodyguard and is moving back to Japan.
What are you gonna do now? Still aim to protect Saburo's ass?
I have been transferred to Japan. I will fly from here to Takamatsu.
Why?
New times, new duties. But we say far too much about me.
However, compared to the beginning, when any insult to the Arasakas would set Takemura off, you can optionally say that Saburo should be dead, and he won't react anywhere near aggressively.
Fucking Saka scums everywhere.
Hey, I was listening to that.
Shut up. Nobody except you wants to watch that shit about that corpo cunt.
What did you say?
You heard me.
Let it go, Takemura.
Sasaburo Arasaka's back. In Yorinobu's body.
Yes, justice has been done.
So, got your revenge? Feel satisfied?
I believe Hanako Arasaka chose the best solution.
Saburo should have stayed dead.
Many wish him dead, but he will survive them all.
Sorry. Guess I'll never understand what you see in the guy.
You did not spend your life at his side and... well, I did not come here to talk about the Arasakas.
This, combined with the fact that when you idle, he'll use Japanese honorifics to revert to V, shows his newfound respect for them.
V-san.
Afterwards, Takamura will do his best to try and convince V to once again side with Arasaka and believe in this Soul Killer program, despite the super dodgy contract where you relinquish all your rights.
Like many brain-dance stars and politicians from what I know, the program is a success. There have been no complaints.
And if I say no?
This is not a prison. You will take your things and return to Night City. Why you? I would sign, but the choice is yours. Think it through carefully.
The devil ending is a polarizing ending. Some people consider surrendering to Arasaka as V's best chance to survive, whereas others align more with Johnny and distrust Arasaka. Considering Hanako deceives V by not telling them her plan to revive Saburo, and he writes about nuking Night City to prevent the biochip from being stolen, it's difficult to trust them. Depending on your perception of the Arasaka family and this ending, you can either be supportive or disappointed in Takamura as he constantly pushes V towards joining the Secure Your Soul program. If you decide to enter the program and submit to Arasaka, Takamura will bring up meeting again in the future and having a meal together.
Don't want to die.
A good choice. The Engram station is ready for you. We should not wait for your condition to worsen.
Gonna see each other again?
I believe we will.
So, see you.
Visit me in Kagawa. I will show you what is real food.
Whereas, if you decide to return to Earth, V will thank him for giving them a choice, but he'll be disappointed.
Made my decision. Going back to Earth. Going home.
You will die there.
You're all right, Takamura. I like you. Thanks for coming all the way up here to help. But one thing you never understood, and never will.
What is that?
Got no idea how sweet it is to be free.
You speak out of bitterness. Please reconsider.
No. This here's goodbye. But I'm not gonna forget you. What we did together.
Goodbye, V.
In the epilogue, Takamura's previously unwavering loyalty to Arasaka wavers minutely, seeing V in such a sorry state, especially considering V saves his life and Saburo's branch of Arasaka. Additionally, Arasaka brought him out of poverty, trained, educated, and Saburo hand-selected him to be his personal bodyguard. Therefore, it's hard to expect a few days with V would undo a lifetime of servitude. Based on his demeanor, he seems genuinely concerned about V and likely wholeheartedly believes in Arasaka being V's best bet for survival, and some players feel the same way. On the other hand, especially from Corporate V's perspective, they have been betrayed multiple times by Arasaka, and it feels like V and their story planted a tiny seed of doubt in Takamura's mind. Essentially, you can see how a combination of Bushido principles combined with overwhelming corporate imperialism creates a character or person like Takamura. However, if you decide to complete the other endings, he'll reference samurai death poems whilst cursing V for their choice.
Before samurai committed to seppuku, they wrote Jisei, a death poem. It contained their final thoughts about life, about death. I have read many of them of late. Some were truly works of beauty. Yet, I am not a samurai, so I bid you farewell with simple words. Rot in hell, Kusama.
Ultimately, Takumura is a fascinating character that goes through a similar experience to Corpo V, being stripped of Arasaka cyberware and being displaced in Night City. Initially, he doesn't trust V and likely planned to use Soul Killer on them to secure evidence of Yorinobu's betrayal. Although he eventually learned to trust them, he doesn't trust V enough to remove the tracker that he initially places on them. Takumura has plenty of funny moments and provides some comedic relief in a dark story, and you can even get pretty close to romancing him. For me, the best part of Cyberpunk is the fact that you can perceive the story differently in each playthrough. I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into Takemuras Story in Cyberpunk 2077 so far. Let me know what you guys think of him. I'll see you next time, Tooms.